internet! With evanescia out now for a couple of days, we are now seeing the newest meta with the newest Tierlist from Pridwin. The elation archetype has finally been out for quite a long time, and including like different teams as well. We've got Zero SP, we also got evanescia now. Two different teams of the new elation archetype that's supposed to be the latest archetype, which usually means they are the strongest. Let's see how they fare in the current meta and what we can take away from the whole new elation path and playstyle. We'll also talk about future possibilities as well, because I do think big meta changes will be coming soon. In any case, let us just start. Just real quick before we start, hey, I know you hate losing 50-50 again for the 600th time. And with all the new characters coming in, if you're running low on pulls and you're looking for the best top-up prices, I got a good deal for you. Enjoy GM! This is a website that provides UID direct top-up for in-game currencies at awesome prices, especially for popular gacha titles like Honkai Star Rail. The best part is how easy it is to set it up. Just head to the site with my link in the description, create an account if you don't have one yet, choose whichever game and whichever bundle you'd like to purchase, enter UID and server, there are no login required, apply that juicy coupon and complete the payment, and you'll see your purchase in game. Zero hassle, massive money saved. Just by using my link and registering, you can get a huge 20% coupon off of your first purchase, and yeah, it's just free value. After that, not only will you unlock the exclusive member prize, you'll also get an 8% site-wide coupon on your next purchases too, as an exclusive perk for you if you top up on the regular on this site. It's again just free value. If you use all the coupons, the $100 pack might just come down to the $80+ range, which is crazy, though this might vary depending on region. Enjoy GM is PCI DSS certified, which ensures all transactions are secured. Tons of users have already tried it too with positive reviews on Trustpilot, and I myself have had no issues personally with using this site, so it's a really valuable service that I myself find trustworthy. If you want the best prices too, check them out with my link in the description. You'll help me out a ton as well, so I'd appreciate that. We'll focus more on the new characters and the changes we've seen in the tier list. And to start us off with tier 0, the strongest teams in the game. And to focus on the DPS role first, I will first have to give props to the genuine goat of all free-to-play, Archer. I don't know how, but he's still goated. Being able to be used with someone like Yaoguang still to perform really well, and generally still just doing really good. Insane single target burst damage capabilities, and with Sparkle being buffed as well, he is actually just eating good right now. To see him at tier 0 is not ridiculous for me. I think that's very much agreeable. And at his side is Asheville, which you can actually use these two together anyway. But Asheville on his own though, still really good as a DPS. Tier 0 seems fine. And then we do see the couple of the normal usual characters, mostly from the Remembrance path and of the Dot archetype. We got Castris, obviously still really strong, with a main DPS Evernight that I'm surprised is still really strong enough to be tier 0. I've never personally used her as a main DPS, usually as a support DPS for Castris, but we all know how good Evernight is in terms of dealing damage as a whole, so her being at tier 0 DPS, I'm not exactly sure myself, but hey, she's still strong, right? Now to move on to the newer characters and the characters that got buffed. We'll start us off with the first full elation DPSs, which will be Cyril of SP and the newly added Evanescia. Cyril of SP with the whole elation squad is obviously one of the strongest characters right now, one of the strongest teams right now, even without the full perfect team yet, because a really good Cyril of SP team, the sustain slot is not exactly an elation character yet. Now, I made a video using Cyril of SP with her elation allies and a welt together, and they already function so well with that squad, being able to achieve really quick clears and insane damage output. So within the next few releases of characters, if they release an elation sustain slot that, honestly, rather than calling them a sustain, they're probably more going to just be a supportive damage dealing sustain anyway, because of how the elation playstyle is. Every single character can do elation skills, every single character can contribute to a lot of good supportive capabilities for each other by generating punchlines or certified banger. So someone of the sustain slot for the elation archetype will probably do something like that, helping the likes of Cyril and Evanescia even more. And surprisingly too, Sparksy, if you treat her as a main DPS though, can still match at tier 0, though I would say she's closer to tier 0.5 personally, at least when you play her as a main damage dealer, because you know, compared to Cyril SP, compared to Evanescia, I do not think Sparksy is at their level exactly, but she's not too far off, I suppose. Now to focus on the actual newer character of this current patch, Evanescia is tier 0 for sure. I will say with the elation characters, you really do need the full elation squad for them to shine really well, and if you do though, they're definitely at tier 0. Evanescia holding the power, matching Cyril of SP, if not more, if you play them well. Her playstyle is one of the more unique ones where you don't really need her to take a bunch of turns. You can have your whole team generate certified banger and then hold every single bit of them for Evanescia to just launch all of them at once to just destroy characters. Like the damage output, if you do it like that, is really high, and she opens to ideas like damage control as well, which I think is underrated. If you think it can prevent her from having a turn of her certified bagger being reduced and then clear the wave that way, you can use her ult immediately and can adjust based on the timing of her ultimate to, you know, control your damage essentially. Evanescia is truly a really strong character, and I am having a blast using her in my own account as well. And that will be for tier 0. To move on to the rest of tier 0 though, in the support DPS slot, all of these are the same characters we've seen from before. While this patch, after all, we see more of main DPS being added rather than support, so I find them agreeable for sure. Next up, to look at the support slot, the amplifiers, where we do see similar characters. Obviously, Sparkle getting buffed, making her really good. The Dahlia as well, with the help of Firefly being buffed, becoming even better as well. And the new addition that we have based on Pritwin would be Elation MC at E6. Now, this one's a bit unique, where I do think she's not as great when paired with, say, Cyril, but when paired with Evanescia, Elation Trailblazer is definitely providing a lot of value as well. That specific team will allow Elation Trailblazer to be considered as a tier 0 character, at least for MOC specifically. A lot of one-shot teams can utilize Elation Trailblazer as well, especially if you're trying to set things up with Evanescia. Then being able to provide Evanescia with extra Elation skill usage is definitely very helpful. I do think if Elation Trailblazer's Elation skill was more supportive than dealing damage though, they would just be way better. But hey, for now, it's good enough. I would say tier 0 is fine. To move on with the sustains though at tier 0, it's the same few characters, but Ho-Ho after the buff became pretty much the best character in the sustain slot of all time. I don't know how Ho-Ho is still so relevant, but I suppose she got buffed. I mean, even before she got buffed, she was already relevant. Maybe not top tier, but from the olden days of like version 1 or 2 before she got buffed in version 4. And now that she got buffed in version 4, she's dominating again as one of the best, if not the best sustains for multiple teams. Literally every like good meta team would not mind a Ho-Ho right now. And the fact that Ho-Hos are providing Ho-Ho for free, I think this is really huge. In fact, when you look at the sustain slot, 2 of them are pretty much free completely. Iodan Hang's free, Ho-Ho's free. I suppose they have a soft spot for the sustain slots where a lot of people are gonna get them way easier. One thing cool that I noticed as well, there are way more of other characters, right, compared to sustain slots, which I guess is fair because you would usually only have one sustain in your team. But I also find it kind of weird where they are just giving a lot of sustain characters for free rather than the other characters. It's actually a good thing though, because sustain is like, oh, you just keep yourself alive. It might not be the most entertaining or interesting thing. So being able to just snag a Ho-Ho for free and Iodan for free is like such a big pressure off of team building. So you can focus on pulling whoever else that you would prefer for the sub DPS, for the amplifiers, and the main damage dealers. And that will make up tier 0 the best characters of Honkai Sharo right now. And I do think we're starting to see an infiltration of the Elation characters into these tiers. I'll also add this as well. It's definitely nice to still see some of the older characters still being solid right now at tier 0. I would definitely be extremely disappointed if Castris, because she just went through version 3, suddenly she's just unusable now. Hey, at least we still see Castris with the Cyrene squad being able to be considered as tier 0. That's fair to me. And of course, I think Ho-Ho is doing a really good job with buffing as well. But we see the Dot squad with Kafka being buffed, Black Swan being buffed. They're all still really good. Of course, we have Firefly that got buffed as well. A really needed buff for sure. Getting them in tier 0, the best teams of the game. Even with version 4, even with the rise of Elation. Now, I do think this is still the start of Elation, so they might release stronger and stronger Elation characters down the line. And I think that's where the meta will truly heavily shift, where we might see some of the older archetypes being lower in tier. I would say that's normal though, but at least with the current pacing, I don't mind it. I would just hate it if one patch comes in and the next patch, suddenly the older characters are completely just replaced. That would be the worst case scenario, which is not the case for this time, and I find that really nice. With all that said, let's move on to the next tier, tier 0.5. We don't really see much of any changes, but we do see some of the highlights here, with Finan no longer being one of the tier 0 characters. I think he's already around in this position, even the version before. I do think it's fair compared to the explosiveness of the other archetypes like the Elation archetype. Finan's more of like a slower option where he's explosive by himself, but he needs to take those action values though. So I think it's fair enough that he's considered tier 0.5 here. Still a very strong character, at least for the main DPS slot. Moving on though, we do see in the amplifier group, we do see some of the more interesting ones because Finan's not exactly dominant anymore. We do see Ceredra being less dominant as well, being at tier 0.5 here. Definitely one of the main things we would like to point out would be Tribi. Now, given in this list, Tribi is labeled as E0. I think most people have E1 Tribi, which E1 I would still put at tier 0, but you know, E0 though, with Dance Dance Dance, tier 0.5 seems definitely fair, I would say. And moving up next, let's move on to the meta characters. This is when I would disagree with only like one character, I would say. The rest are pretty accurate. The one character I would point out though would be a Welt gosh dang Yang, bro. I ain't gonna lie, Welt Yang, sustain Welt Yang should be tier 0.5 at the very least. But I will say there is some nuances here. He's labeled as E0 right now. And at E0 E0, he might be missing a lot of the supportive capabilities that amplifies damage. At E4 though is where he truly gets insane with the rest pen, I believe. So in E4, well, I'll definitely kick his ass up to tier 0.5. And under these conditions, I would even put him tier 0 because he can technically just by himself control some boss fights to the point where they just don't even get a turn. For the rest of the tier though, I think they all make sense for the most part. They're definitely not as strong of a character as before, and a lot of them are just older characters in general, right? To move on to tier 1.5 though, this is when we do see one of the bigger changes with Seela. Seela used to be pretty low tier as well before the buff. Now we have her buff already, and Pritwin has ranked her at tier 1.5. I do think it's fair. I don't think she's just dominating out of nowhere now. Under certain circumstances, against certain stages though, she can actually pull up really good damage numbers and really quick performances as well. But for the general public and for general use case, she's still tier 1.5 for me because she still has weaknesses for sure, right? The thing that she's best at is getting multiple skills to happen, and you still have to drop the enemy below a certain level of health or, you know, defeat the enemy as well in order to get her full value. Sometimes you just might not get to do that. You know, it depends on like the situation, depend on the boss, depend on how tanky the mobs are. It's not exactly as autopilot as a lot of the other archetypes, which I do think Seela, when played perfectly, has a higher level than tier 1.5. But generally speaking, especially at E0, not exactly the most dominant character for sure. Tier 1.5 seems fair enough. Do I think they could have buffed Seela better? I would say perhaps, but then again, it's a version 1 character. I personally would prefer if she was like buffed better though, just slightly maybe. But I would say for people that really love Seela, you guys are out of the world. You guys have a lot of fun with her, and you guys are able to use her really well. So it's like a cool character. She has actually pretty high ceiling if you play her well. And I would say, you know what? A skill-based character where, you know, you gotta manage your skill point, you gotta manage the enemy's HP as well, making sure you trigger the right things at the right times. A pretty fun character overall, honestly. And I like those. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna adjust your kit to increase damage by 10%. That's it. The buff that she got opens up more playstyles and higher ceiling for her for sure. Moving on with tier 2, we do see the duo that almost like first gotten buffed ever. We got Blade and Jinglu. Gosh dang, they're back down again. I mean, the buff that they obtained was not even that good to begin with. They're great at the time, but you know, with time going past, it's not exactly like dominant for sure. So they didn't keep their place for that long. And then I would say, well, we have someone like Yunli, which is what Clara should be, I guess. But at the meta right now though, rather than making the enemy attack you, it's more about murdering the enemy in cold blood. So someone like Yunli, not exactly dominant obviously, but hey, you could still use her, I guess. To move on to the off-meta characters though, there's pretty much no changes here, but this is where we get to talk about potential buffs for the next characters. I would say someone like Clara definitely deserves a buff at this point, but then again, she's a standard character, but we've seen what Hoyo could do to like someone like Welch, right? So for someone like Clara to be buffed, I think is fair, but then again, if you buff Clara in like an obvious way, she would just become a better Yunli, and I don't know how smart that would be. Or maybe just buff them both, right? Someone like Himiko kind of deserves a buff in my opinion, since the best version of her is being used in Pure Fiction, and she's not even that dominant in Pure Fiction anymore. It's tier 1.5. A Himiko buff would be very much welcomed. And as for the rest of tier 3, we do see a lot of the 4-star characters, which I will be honest, man, 4-star characters are not really being used that much anymore, with the exception of maybe Moza. Moza is still used in like niche one-shot situations, zero cycle situations, alongside someone like Asheville for that week. So I do think for that setup, Moza is actually not going to be tier 3, maybe a lot higher, but only for that specific setup though, and you can't even use it every week. So for most casual players in general setups, Moza is not exactly going to be a character that's too impressive. It's another skill-based character, right? Kind of like Seela, where if you play them well, min-max everything, you can set things up very interestingly. And as for tier 4, it's the person that I would most prefer to be buffed next, which would be Al Danheng. I think Al Danheng is a sleeping character with incredible potential if you buff him correctly. His special effects are still one of the nicest I've seen, honestly. But right now though, his damage numbers are certainly just not enough. You can still use him though. I think I forced myself to use him a couple of times with a buff sparkle. It does work to a certain extent, but not that much. I would definitely love to see a buff for this guy. Who can forget about Bailu, huh? When are you gonna get buff, huh? I sure hope she gets buff and becomes like a solo beater. I still haven't given up on the dream of soloing MO2 with Bailu, man. And now we have the forgotten ones. Yeah, it's still the same stuff, I guess. A lot of the 4 stars for sure. I don't know what they're gonna do with 4 stars. They're not buffing any yet. I would prefer some buffs to the 4 stars for sure. I would specifically prefer a buff to the 4-star, actually the 3-star Yanqing here. He needs a buff, man. Come on, give him a crutch at least. He's already broken both his legs. And that is all from Memory of Chaos. I would say the ranking are pretty solid. It's not too ridiculous, right? Most of them are correct or in the range where I would agree with. Some that I would disagree with, but hey, I'm just a casual player with like very very biased takes as well. I try to be objective, but in the end, it's just a discussion though. Feel free to let me know what you guys think about the meta right now. I do think we are starting to see the change into a elation direction, but it's where everything is still in the middle ground, where the older characters are still strong. Elation archetype is not set in stone yet either, so we can have a lot of fun with all the teams we've built so far without thinking, oh, now I can't use the older teams. In terms of pure fiction though, to focus on just the new characters, we do see Evanescia being tier 0, which she is really good in everything. AoE, single target, her entire kit adjusts her damage like bouncing based on the number of enemies anyways, so she's actually pretty good there as well. Now we do see Cyril SP in tier 0.5 though, which I guess in the mode like pure fiction, it's not exactly that great for Cyril yet. Is she terrible? Definitely not. She can still clear everything. Tier 0.5 or near tier 0 seems fair to me. And then we also got Elation MC that got an increase in rank, obviously with Evanescia. Elation MC definitely can see more of a play now, so that's fair enough. And the rest of it is kind of just similar, you know, same but different. The ones that are good in pure fiction will always be the ones that are decent. I would say, you know, when you see, you know, this character as well, supposedly a pure fiction specialist, come on now, we do need that Argenti buff too. At least make him good in this mode, right? I think he's made for this mode. And that's for Apocalyptic Shadow. This is where we do see very similar rankings with MOC as well, where a lot of the functionalities in this mode is just if you can break the boss or something, complete the criteria for unlocking the buffs, you'll do fine. And it's kind of similar to MOC, right? I guess if you're good at MOC, you're usually just good here as well, with the exception of a couple of characters, which, you know, depending on the situation and the nature of that fight, you might see some characters being a rank lower or rank higher, which is not the end of the world. Usually when you can beat MOC easily with a team, you can beat Apocalyptic Shadow as well. And yeah, obviously the ones that are not that great, Yanqing, they're definitely not gonna be as great. But yeah, jokes aside though, I would love to see a Yanqing buff anyway. I think a lot of people have an E6 Yanqing at this point. Imagine if they just get a really good buff for him and you can suddenly use him really well now. That would be fire. And yep, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be all for the tier list at the start of version 4 pretty much. I think things will start definitely changing soon, with future characters looking pretty good. We got that SP Blade coming in, and yo, I'm just guessing bro, but SP Himiko, that character will be breaking the internet, dude. I cannot wait for all of those characters. Now I wonder if they'll all like suit into an elation playstyle though. I don't think all of them would, but we'll see how it goes. The elation playstyle is far from being completed yet, I would say, and we'll see how the power level scaling goes down the road. Ideally, I would prefer all the teams, you know, the newest ones being best, but the older ones still being creatively strong. But if you play them well, you can make them perform good, right? That would be the best case scenario. And still to have some teams that are not that old be just decently dominant. They don't have to just swap into like the newest team every time. And that'll be all for this tier list video. Do let me know what you think. And I hope this video serves as more of a discussion. So yeah, that'll be all. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and take care.